Hey guys, today we're going to be going over the Unit 7 review, which is over polygons and quadrilaterals. And our test over this same topic will be tomorrow. So we're going to do all the ones that are on the example column. And then for the practice column, these are up to you guys to do on your own. And this will be an assignment in Schoology to get you some extra points on your test. Okay, so let's look at number 1 on the example side. It says find the interior angle sum of a 25-gon. So interior angle depends on how many sides the shape has. So if this is a 25-gon, it has 25 sides. So remember, tomorrow you're going to be able to use your entire notes packet to find the interior angle sum. So this is just the first page of our notes packet. Is this formula here, n minus 2 times 180. So our sum, so I'm going to put S for sum, is 25 minus 2, and then whatever that number is, we're going to multiply that by 180. Well, I know that 25 minus 2 is 23, so I'm going to simplify this to 23 times 180, and then I'm going to type this into my calculator. So we're going to get a pretty big number here. I'm getting 4,140. And that's degrees. Okay, number 2. If a regular polygon has an interior angle sum of 2,160 degrees, how many sides does it have? So here in the previous problem, it's n minus 2 times 180 equals our sum. Well, on this one, we're still going to use that same formula. So it's interior angle sum, same formula. It's just we already know what S is. We know the sum is 2160. What we're trying to find is how many sides. So we're trying to find the n that goes here. So to set this up, I'm going to do 2160 equals n minus 2 times 180. Okay, so we're trying to get this n by itself. So see how that 180 is being multiplied? We're going to do the opposite, and we're going to divide both sides by 180. That way it can cancel out. Okay, so 2,160 divided by 180 gives me 12. So now I have 12 equals n minus 2. And then I want n to be by itself. So this minus 2, we're going to add 2 to both sides so that that can cancel. And then my final answer, I'm going to write it here to the side, is 14. So this polygon would have 14 sides. Okay, question number 3. And by the way, there is going to be a question exactly like this on the test. It'll be different numbers, but exactly this. It says the sum of the angles of any quadrilateral, so that means if I have a figure that is 4 sides, the interior angle sum is always 360. Okay, so if I already know that angle S is 42 degrees, which of the following statements is true about quadrilateral PQRS? So I have a 4-sided shape. It doesn't tell us if it's a square or a rectangle or what, but just, 4 sides. PQRS, so PQRS, and I already know that S is 42. So if I know that the entire sum is 360, let's do this. What is 360 minus the 42 that we already know? So 360 minus 42 gives me 318. So that means that the other 3 angles that we don't have a measurement for yet, so P, Q, and R, they should equal the remaining 318. So looking at my choices, A and C both say 360, and they only have 3 angles each. So that it can't be either one of those. So I'm going to scratch off A and C. Okay, between B and D, they both equal the 318 that I needed to, but we need to double check that it's these specific 3 angles, P, Q, R. So look at B, PQR. I think it is going to be this one. D has PQS, and we already know S is 42. So our only answer can be answer choice B. Okay, number 4, find the value of X. So looking at all these little measurements, they're all the inside angles of this shape. So we have to pay attention to interior angle sum. So interior, I'm going to put int angle sum. Okay, and how many sides does this figure have? So I'm going to start up here. I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So I have 6 sides. So this is a hexagon. So I know it looks kind of weird, but it is a hexagon. So how much is it supposed to be? It's not 360. 360 is for 4 sides. So I'm going to go back to my notes packet. I think we already have this written down. Okay, so right here, for a hexagon, it needs to equal 720. And if you don't have your notes, if you don't forget, like if you don't have that written down, you could always use the formula and figure it out. Plug in your 6 here and then multiply. But we already know that it's 720, so I'm going to use that. Okay, so when I add all of those up, it needs to equal 720. So what I'm going to do is get all the ones that have x's. So I have 9x plus 5x, so that's already 14, plus 7x, so that gives me 21x. Okay, and then now all the numbers that don't have x's. So I have a negative 19. So I'm going to type this in my calculator as I go along. Plus 111. Plus 8. Plus 128. Plus 3. And then remember, this one doesn't have a number, but it has that square there. So we know that that's 90. So plus 90. And all of that together gives me 321. Okay, and I need to make that equal to 720. Okay, so this is just a 2-step problem. We're going to subtract 321 from both sides. And that leaves me with 21x equals 399. And then we're going to divide by 21. And x equals 19. Okay, so I know for a fact there is one like this on the test. Just make sure you pay attention to how many sides. This in our notes has 6 sides, but I think the one on the test has a different number of sides. Okay, let's look at the next one. So it also says find the value of x, but this time when you look at those labels, they're talking about the outside angle. So all of these angles, see our triangle, none of them are on the outside. These are exterior angles. So the sum of exterior angles, so x angles, for any shape, it doesn't matter what shape it is always 360. So we're just going to add all of these up and make it equal 360. So like we did before, all the ones that have x's, let's put those together. So I'm getting 24x. And then now all the ones that don't have an x, I have 1 plus 12 is 13. And then minus 37 gives us negative 24. Okay, and that needs to equal 360. Let's add 24 to both sides. That gives me 24x equals 384. And then we're going to divide by the 24. And x equals 16. Okay, so remember with exterior angles, always 360. It doesn't matter what shape. So if you look at number 5 for the ones that I want you to practice on, it has a different amount of sides, but it's still going to equal 360. Okay, so that's just in general polygons. So now we're going to look into our specific quadrilaterals. Number 6 on our example side says that ABCD is a parallelogram. Find the measures. So when I look at what they want me to find, they want me to find angles, and they did give me one. So I'm going to go to my notes packet, and what I'm going to do is actually flip all the way to the very last page, because what it does, it gives me all my rules all on one page. So for parallelograms, let me zoom on here. We're looking for anything about angles. So the two things that it tells me about angles is that opposite angles are congruent and consecutive angles are supplementary. So what that means is that top left would be congruent with bottom right, and top right would be congruent to bottom left. It also says that if you do consecutive angles, that means angles that are on the same side, and I add those up, that would equal 180. But it also works the other direction. I could do this, and that would also equal 180. Okay, so let's look at our problem. So I have 68 for angle D. So right away, opposite angles are congruent. B has to also be 68. Okay, so now to find the other two, we have to use the fact that consecutive angles are supplementary. So the A and D are next to each other. I can subtract from 180. So 180 minus 68, and that'll get me the answer for both A and C. So that gives me 112. So both A and C are 112 since they are across from each other. Okay, turn to the back. Number 7, CDEF is a rectangle. Find the missing measures. So now when I'm looking at this shape, all of these labels are referring to the sides. So going back to my notes packet, all of these will be true plus these. So anything that a parallelogram has, a rectangle has, that means that opposite sides are congruent. Diagonals bisect each other and diagonals are congruent. So I really think the one that's going to help us is this second one. Opposite sides are congruent. So back in our review, top is congruent to bottom, left is congruent to right. So if I want to solve for x, I think it's going to be easiest to do these two since DE doesn't have anything. So we're going to do 3x plus 5 equals 38. Let's subtract 5 from both sides. So 3x equals 33. And then we're going to divide by 3. So x equals 11. And now that I know that x is 11, in order to find CF, we're just going to plug it in there. So for right here, 4 times 11 minus 17. So that would be 44 minus 17, and that gives me 27. So CF is 27. Okay, number 8, which of the following statements are true attributes of the quadrilateral that has vertices at, and it gives us 4 points. So we have a list of things, and it might be that none of them are true. It might be that one is true or all are true. So we need to see what figure we have in order to know that. So let's go ahead and plot all these points. So A is at negative 5, 8. So this is point A. B is at negative 3, 6. Negative 6, negative 1 is C. And then negative 8, positive 1 is D. Okay, and then we're going to connect our points with as straight of line as we can get. Just do your best. Okay, and I get this shape. So for sure, I do not think it is a rectangle or a square because those angles are not right angles. So it's either a rhombus or a parallelogram. And with rhombus, all four sides would have to be the same. So I'm like 90% sure this is a parallelogram, but the way we would check is make sure that opposite sides are parallel and congruent. So I'm going to look at these longer sides first. So first, let's find the slope. I have to go up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, and then across 1, 2, 3. So AD has a slope of 7/3. Let's see about BC. So remember, we always read left to right, so I would have to start at C. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 1, 2, 3. So yes, it's the same, 7/3. Okay, now let's check those short sides. I'm going to start at the top with AB. We're reading left to right, so we would have to start with A, and it's going down 2/2. So 2/2 would just give me a slope of 1, but it's negative. Okay, and then at the bottom, same thing, down 2/2. So it also has a slope of -1. Okay, so this is for sure a parallelogram because opposite sides are parallel and congruent. So if you look at those rules, opposite sides are parallel, opposite sides are congruent. So these are for sure both yes. Okay, but let's look at the other two. The diagonals are congruent, the diagonals are perpendicular. So diagonals would be connecting these like A to C and then D to B. Okay, so when I look, like I'm just eyeballing it, I'm not really paying attention for sure. They're not perpendicular because this wouldn't make a right angle. So I'm thinking this one is a no. The diagonals are congruent. They kind of look the same. I'm not for sure. But since I do know that it is a parallelogram, I can go to my notes and check to see what my notes say about the diagonals. The diagonals bisect each other. The only way they would have been congruent is if it was a rectangle, but it is not a rectangle. It is a parallelogram. So yeah, I think it's only going to be those first two. The other ones are no's. Okay, number 9, TUVW is a rhombus. If the measure of angle W is 29, find the measure of TUX. So looking at my notes for rhombus, all four sides are the same, diagonals are perpendicular, and the diagonals bisect opposite angles. So diagonals are perpendicular, so that means that they're in the middle. This is a right angle, and I know that because it's a rhombus. It also said diagonals bisect opposite angles. So what that means is like T is opposite of V. This diagonal cuts those exactly in half. So all four of these little pieces, this one, this one, this one, and this one, would be the same. And then W and U are opposite and they're getting bisected. So W, the two pieces, and then U's two pieces would all be the same. Okay, so the piece of information that they give us is if the measure of angle W is 29. So angle W is this entire thing. So both pieces together make 29. Find the measure of TUX. TUX, and I'm just following the letters. So TUX is not the entire angle. It's only one piece. It is only this side. But we know that it's cut exactly in half from here. So all we have to do is what is 29 divided by 2? And that gets us 14.5. So yes, this is a decimal. Okay, number 10. JKLM is a kite. Find the missing measures. So the trick with kites is to find the line that's cutting it exactly in half. So this one is actually straight up and down. If you connect K to M, both sides of that orange line that I just drew in are congruent. So if L is 82, then J is also 82. So that's the first one. But then for angle K, you can't do this direction because our line of reflection is going up and down. It's not side to side. So K and M are not the same. But what we do know is that quadrilaterals, all quadrilaterals, so this does have 4 sides, 1, 2, 3, 4. So I'm going to write it up here. Quads always equal 360. So if I already know 3 of the angles, let's just subtract. So 360 minus 82 minus 82 again, and minus 71 will give us what is left over for K. So let me pop that into my calculator really quick. And I am getting 125. So the measure of angle K is 125. Okay, and then the last question. WXYZ is an isosceles trapezoid. Find the measures. So they want us to find the other 3 angles because I can see one angle is labeled. They want us to find the other 3, but then they also want us to find MN. MN is that mid segment there. So I'm going to go back to my notes packet and see what it says about the angles of a trapezoid. So I have one pair of opposite sides are parallel, that's sides. Consecutive angles are supplementary, but that's only in between the parallel lines. So what that means is that on this one, those 2 are parallel. That's where I would put my little triangle shape. Then I would say that this angle is supplementary to this one. So not congruent. I shouldn't color them in, but they're supplementary. And then same with these 2, they're supplementary. Okay, but it did say it was isosceles, so let me look at this one. The base angles are congruent. So when you find your parallel sides, so that's the top and the bottom, the sides that are not parallel are congruent. So that means this angle is congruent to this one, and the tops are congruent. Okay, so going here, since we have isosceles, if this is 47, then the other one on the top is also 47, so that's measure of angle W. Then to find Y and Z, X and Y are supplementary, these right here. So I'm going to get 180 minus 47 and see what I get left over. That gives me 133. So Y is 133. But these base angles are also congruent, so Z is 133. Okay, now for that mid segment, MN. So MN is that middle line right there. The way you find it is by looking at the parallel sides. So see how that has a little arrow and this has a little arrow? We're going to add them together. So 79 plus 25, and then half of that. So I'm going to show my work here. Let's figure out first what 79 plus 25 is. That is 104. And then when I take half of that, that's 52. So MN must be 52. Okay, and that's the whole test. So there is a lot of different rules, like trapezoids, kites, rhombus, like all of them have different rules. So it's going to be in your best interest if you have your notes packet handy with all the rules on the back of your packet and some examples to look at from here. Also, it is in your best interest to actually work out these practice problems. I'm going to make a Schoology assignment, and like I said, if you get them done, you'll get bonus points to your test, and as well as it's just going to help you remember. All right, and that is it for our review.